There's really orange lights.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, those are probably squid boats. Have you been seeing any whales out there? I'm trying to see
Almost every day.
what. Oh, great.
Dolphins.
Do you know what's?
Yeah.
Big, huge schools of dolphins. I don't know if they're chasing the squid or...
Could be.
Are you guys pretty familiar with the history of the Nautilus? I didn't get to read in as much detail, but I came across that its name before it was changed to Nautilus was the Alexander von Humboldt,
Yep.
Yeah.
which is cool. I don't know if you've read that book that came out in the last few years about him, The Invention of Nature, the story of Alexander von Humboldt. He had kind of been forgotten, and the author brought him back into our consciousness. I mean, there's so many things named after him and so many things that he did in his time that we've kind of taken for granted or forgotten.
So is this the person that the Humboldt squid is named after?
Yes, the Humboldt Current, the Humboldt Squid,
Humboldt,
there's
Humboldt
Humboldt
County?
County,
Yeah.
Quite an
Humboldt State
explorer, yeah.
University.
Really kind of
Yeah,
endless
so
the amount of things that guy did.
So
he did.
when did he live?
Oh gosh, I should go get my book. Just a minute, because I haven't looked at it in a while. I'll mute and go get it while we're doing this.
Alexander von Humboldt. He lived 1769 to 1859. Sorry, Di, I have Google right here, not your book. He was a Prussian polymath.
What?
A polymath. A polymath means a person who has knowledge that spans a significant number of subjects. So he was a very learned person.
Polymath.
Did you get the years, Lisa? I was away.
Yes.
He
So
lived
he
from
was born 14 September 1769 to
1859.
Yes,
1859.
almost 100 years
I'm
old.
reading from the back of the book. He was the most famous scientist of his age, a visionary German naturalist and polymath whose discoveries forever changed the way we understand the natural world. Among his most revolutionary ideas was a radical conception of nature as a complex and interconnected global force that does not exist for the use of humankind alone. In North America, Humboldt's name still graces towns, counties, parks, bays, lakes, mountains, and a river. And yet the man had all but been forgotten. And so in this biography that Andrea Wolf has written, it was a few years ago, she was the keynote speaker at the Esri conference that I went to, the GIS software made by Esri, ArcMap. And that's how I learned about the book and bought it at the conference.
How is
He
the book?
also did some of the first mapping. He noticed patterns in elevation and was able to compare the changes in vegetation with elevation in Europe versus South America, and no one had ever sort of noticed that before. He also noticed how areas inhabited by man, how the he was the first to kind of notice how man could influence climate through
Yeah, isn't that
deforestation and
crazy
things
back
like
then?
that.
And it
Yeah.
still isn't fully accepted by everybody. It's just
Yeah. Anyway,
how long it takes
yeah.
for an idea to catch on.
Yeah.
So do you recommend the book? Does it read?
Yeah,
Is it
I have
engaging?
not finished. I have not finished the book. I'm not good at finishing books. I get doing other things, and I used to own a horse, so I had very little time to read. But her enthusiasm alone about the story was what sucked me in. And yeah, I would recommend it. I think it's something all of us who are doing exploring and adventuring should read.
He's definitely an important figure in geography. I learned about him.
Yeah.
We were going through.
He had relationships with Simon Bolivar and Thomas Jefferson, lasting influence of his writings on Darwin, Wordsworth, Goethe, and Muir, Thoreau, and many others. Brilliantly researched and stunningly written, The Invention of Nature reveals the myriad ways in which Humboldt's ideas form the foundation of modern environmentalism. And I went to Humboldt State, and I don't even think at the time I realized who he was. So, true confessions here at 3:00 in the morning.
I grew up in Massachusetts, and it took me forever to realize that Massachusetts was a Native American name.
Ah.
Well,
It's
some
always
of the
time to
names,
learn more.
yeah, a lot of the names that we have here in California are from Native Americans, like, and I only found out that Halama Beach, Avila, these are beaches here off of Central California, or Malibu, they're Shumash. Those are the,
Oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
There's always something to learn.
Well, it's just, I think that the idea that America was discovered um, is is not as prevalent as it was in the past, that there were people living here
Yeah.
before Europeans came and explored here. So discovery is in the eye of the beholder.
And the era in which they live and the baseline they're aware of. And how did, so you must know the story of how the Shumash.
That was the last one.
Roger.
Oh, yeah.
Afton Port.
Oh, it was.
Sure.
Okay.
We're going to just do
How the
our cross
Shumash
lines. Yeah, sorry.
sanctuary nomination came to be,
How did it come to
or
be?
that name. Well, the name, how the name was chosen.
Well, it was so the proponents or the nominators are the Northern Chumash Tribal Council, and this area or the area around Santa Lucia Bank has been proposed for a national marine sanctuary for 3 decades, and not always by the Chumash. It was also by the supervisors, the County Board of Supervisors of the San Luis Obispo County in the 1980s. They wanted to have a national marine sanctuary, smaller, covering more Morro Bay, and then a little bit larger, not as far offshore as to include the Santa Lucia Bank. But the Chumash have been interested in protecting the living and non-living resources within the boundary of what they proposed for I'd say maybe 10 years, but they really came together when the seismic surveys were being conducted as part of the decommissioning of the Diablo Canyon power plant. Not really the decommissioning, but they were trying to figure out what the fault lines were after the Fukushima disaster. So trying to figure out
Mm-hmm.
if there were to be an earthquake here, how would that impact the Diablo Canyon power plant? Since then, it's
Mm-hmm.
been proposed and now accepted for decommissioning, but those
Mm-hmm.
seismic surveys were of a huge concern for a lot of folks off of the Central Coast. So the Sierra Club, the Northern Chumash Tribal Council came together and they said, hey, there's this new opportunity offered by the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries for communities to propose areas. This is a new process that came about in 2014. So they took that opportunity and they submitted a proposal in 2015,
Hmm.
which we accepted, and it's been in the inventory now for 5 years.
Okay. Wow. Been a long
There's
process.
yes,
A lot of
yes.
years.
So there's that Horsehead
Skull,
sponge.
sponge.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So people don't really think that it is a horse head. It is a sponge shaped like a horse head,
Right.
a skull.
I called
So
it a
what are we
cow
gonna do?
skull, but I think you're right.
So we're doing
Go
another
ahead.
sort of X. We're gonna mark another X.
Mm-hmm. And then,
Okay.
well, we could be, it depends on, we could be finished at that point, but we could also do the perpendicular direction. It really just depends on, I mean, it adds more data to the model, right? Just different perspective that we've seen. I think we've, just given the orientation of these fans, we've probably gotten a decent amount, given that we've seen the back side and the front side, and the profiles are less pronounced. But I'm open for anyone who has any insight on that. What do you think?
So I'm looking at Lizzie's last instructions, and I'm hoping she's asleep, even if it's on her couch. She just said, so maybe the best coverage would be a 180. We'd want both faces, I think, more than the sides. So yeah, we just did the 180.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I'm kind of thinking
I'm
so
up to
too.
hearing from you all what you think is best.
Well, we for sure have a 2D photo mosaic for habitat revisiting. This 3D model, I think, is probably going to be pretty decent, given that we have both sides. I don't know how much it will be improved versus the amount of time it's going to take to do perpendicular lines. Dan or Jake, or Dan, Jake, Steve, Taylor, Ann, if you have any insight.
I can't say for certain because I haven't done too much with it, so I haven't,
Right.
especially this type of survey. So I don't know. I think we do have good coverage, and it doesn't hurt to go over again. But it's a timing thing, and do we want to spend another hour?
Doesn't 3D by definition kind of suggest 3 dimensions? I don't know how.
That's more directional, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Me neither.
Well, the idea behind it was to be able to come back to the same spot and look at it in the future to compare.
Well, that we certainly have
size
from the
composition and
from the 2D.
yeah.
It definitely would not hurt the model to have another viewpoint. I'll put it that way, but it's up to the science whether you want to spend another hour doing that.
Right.
Well, that's
What do
the
you think, Lisa?
3D
I've
model
never done
versus
this.
the habitat
Mm.
thing. So
Yeah.
So say that
Is
again, Dan. I didn't
3D,
hear.
yeah.
I didn't quite hear what you said, Dan.
oh, so the habitat. What's the other word you use?
Mosaic.
What's that?
The photo mosaic?
Yeah, just for the
Yes.
habitat.
Mm-hmm.
That seems good, but if you're wanting to recreate something like the whale fall model, it seems like I've heard the word perpendicular dropped a few times in association with that. So.
You're right. So as much as it is sort of boring, maybe we should do another pass perpendicularly or on the perpendicular to cover it all.
Yeah, it's really just a matter of how much time. So that'll be 1 hour in one direction and 2 hours if we do all 4 cardinal directions.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we're at 3 o'clock now.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so if we start going in the one direction, we should then do it in the other direction.
Well, any bit of more data will improve it. Yeah, it would. We could.
Seems like you have to have all to spin a 3D model around it, unless you're looking down from the top. But if you want to look at it from the side, yeah.
Well, it depends on how much we're getting from the side. Like I was saying, the features that we're looking at are kind of these fans, right? And we've got the dead on and the back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as we've been moving side to side, we definitely have a bit of coverage to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, I haven't done this before, so this is just my intuition is that there's no part of these corals that we haven't seen that we're gonna see from the side because of the way that we see the bit of the
They're
side
oriented.
as we pass.
Really?
Yeah.
I disagree.
Another thing that we could do, and this is kind of splitting the difference, is that because we've been doing 1 meter passes, is we could do 1 meter forward, and then instead of doing it backwards, is we flip the heading 180 on the next pass, and so we've got kind of we're literally mowing a lawn, like driving back and forth and back and forth. So that's one.
Yeah,
that takes 1 hour.
You don't gain much time there because the time it takes to turn the vehicle, and then you stir it up when you turn the vehicle, and then when we do that, we wind up flying the same path back. So you get.
Or you would step over in that instance.
Even if you step over 1 meter, you get.
What if you did 2 meter steps, and then you start with a 1 meter step on the next direction, so you're kind of offsetting? Does that make sense?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, essentially trying to cover as much as we can in 1 hour rather than 2.
I guess you could do a 45 across too, but.
I think you're gonna have difficulty matching the images with the forward-facing cameras, like with the 180 direction. So going one way and going the other, it's gonna be difficult if they're.
Depends on if the software looks at it in order or not.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. That depends on the software. Some don't require order.
There's a lot of questions
Yeah.
involved with this.
We've got another cross line to think about it during.
Forward and port, right?
Forward and port, yes.
Sorry, we don't have better guidance.
Right.
But we appreciate your expertise, the expertise that you do have in doing these sorts of things, because it's a lot more than we have, huh, Lisa?
Definitely more. So we would get more data by, that makes sense to me, by going across perpendicularly. But is it data that we need if we're going to come back and look at the differences that have happened to this habitat over time?
I would say
So is the
no,
Yeah.
because you have at least two-dimensional photo mosaics that we've just taken.
Right.
Spot, one looking at the fans and one looking at upwards.
right?
Which,
Does the
in my experience, is one more than you usually get. Usually they just do, year after year, they
okay,
do the
right.
one
Because the
heading and
same.
they do a grid.
Yeah.
So they pick the, because often it's very rare that it's flat. It's often some kind of feature, so they pick the optimal heading for the camera views and also for the vehicle to be able to navigate the terrain, and then they just do the grid and that's it. But they'll do
Okay.
they'll do multiple, so instead of doing one grid in 2 or 3 directions, they'll do multiple grids in an area, for example. So within a square mile, for example, or a square kilometer or whatever, they'll do several of these.
That's kind of the thought, I guess, with the doing one on the north face, if we get there.
Yeah, so they'll do like, yeah.
I would suggest then if we're to do one on the north face, that it would probably just be a single 1 hour, 10 by 10, two-dimensional photo mosaic. And then this one, because we have two in this location, we're able to play around with hopefully getting the best 3D model we can, given the data that we've collected. But that is up to you as far as time goes and how much time you have on the dive. But habitat mapping wise, like Dan was saying, we've got
it.
Yeah, we've got it. We're not going to make a whale fall out of this. This is really to compare changes in habitat over time. So
yeah,
I think Lizzie's hope was to make a three-dimensional one, which is why we did this second one. So we'll kind of have a lot of options with the data we just collected by the end of this.
Right.
This
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. It sounds like we're ready to proceed on down the contour. Is that right?
Yeah, we're just finishing up this last final X. We'll get the timestamp, and then we can move on.
Okay. It was fascinating. It's been, I think, really interesting.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see the lingcod, who's still been cruising around.
Yeah.
Here.
Have you been mechanical clicking back there the whole time, Taylor?
Oh, yeah.
How's your mouse finger doing?
It's cold. It's kind of like Ice Cube. Can't feel it. Doesn't hurt, though.
Oh.
It's okay.
Dedication.
Sacrificing
Thank
that
you,
mouse
Taylor
finger
Ann.
for in the name of science.
In the name of science.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for methodically clicking away back there.
No problem.
All
The
this
time's gone by pretty quickly, actually.
It has. I've found this whole experience very relaxing.
Yeah.
Really needed this.
It's like slow TV.
Yeah. Do you want to stay on longer now?
Sure. I've offered. I would stay on. I'd ride this boat till Christmas if they let me.
It was mesmerized. It's been mesmerizing, hasn't it? Not in a fall asleep kind of way, but it has been very relaxing, interesting, and not stressful.
Yeah, it's beautiful for us to enjoy the scenery without worrying about wrecking it or the equipment or crashing into
running
something.
Into a line.
Or moving the ship.
Yeah.
Moving the ship or all that stuff we deal with.
Especially in this fishing gear habitat that has been reported.
I wonder how many times the bridge has gone to check the intercom to make sure they're not missing.
Me and Vitaly have a good understanding of limited communication. should see when we do mapping. I don't think we ever talk to each other the whole watch. He just knows what to look for and how I point at things and timing and everything. We communicate via HiPAC.
Nice.
So
Language of the navigator.
I haven't worked out. I thought I did when we were facing the other way. Are all the fans, some fans are curled one way and some are curled the other way, or are they all curled the same?
I thought most of them are facing towards us upslope, but I'm sure there's some that are anomalous.
All right.
Right now, the
complete.
curvature.
Look at that, dead on.
Yeah. Right
Sorry,
now, the curvature looks towards us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought
But
it was that way
I
when we
haven't
were facing the other way too.
No, they was facing. they've been curved towards the from this perspective.
Upslope.
Yes, upslope. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What was the timestamp on that end?
Oh, good. Now is good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
10-10.
And
10-10-10 maybe.
45. Yeah. Okay.
This is the Zen Golden Coral Garden.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. I think some good stuff will come out of that.
So
Yeah.
We'll pass that along to the next watch about.
that's the 90 perspective.
Yeah. I don't know, between the DSC that's kind of downward looking and the HT that's looking forward, I think we might have enough data from those two directions. And then the fact that we got the 1 meter overlap, it does have a bit of side.
Oh, looks totally different to me.
I think if we had all the time
so
in the world, yeah. But if the primary interest is habitat mapping, we have that done. Secondary, it's creating a 3D model, then we've done a pretty
Roger that.
job.
I think she wanted to have 3D models more from like boulder outcrops where you would do the pirouettes on.
Right, yeah, definitely wanted that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is more for habitat purposes.
Okay, so we're meant to go onward to Z3.
Okay.
Is that right?
Onward ho.
What do you call it again?
Onward
Habitat?
ho on the
Habitat.
Habitat mosaic or habitat?
Mapping.
There was another word you used.
Habitat map. I don't know. Habitat.
I
can't remember.
Another word I used.
habitat
mosaic.
Habitat something. So.
Was it survey? No.
All right, I'll start moving if we're happy to go.
Which way are we going? Sorry.
We will be going 103.
103.
Why are we here?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
103.
Yeah. We'll start at point 2. That's what they had us going at before because of the fishing gear, but then we'll get a false sense of security and increase the speed and run into something. Let's go. Bridge now.
That looks good.
Yes.
Let's step 50 meters, bearing 103. Thank you.
And now we can zoom in on some stuff if we wanted to look at it.
Yeah.
Looking at the event log is going to be very interesting, since all I was doing was taking photos for 3 hours.
That'll be kind of nice, just like a entry. Hey, for the past 3 hours.
Yeah, too bad I'm not doing this dive report.
Oh man,
it's okay.
Nice chunk.
Last one isn't too bad.
That's fine.
So as we head onward at some point, we should probably turn the lasers on.
Yeah, we can turn them on
If
now.
they're not If they're not on already, I can't
Now
tell.
they are. Jake's all over it.
Okay.
There they are. Thank you.
Thanks. And I'm wondering, Lisa, I don't know when the transects are in the mix here, right? Do we want to look a little more? I mean, we've certainly looked at this quite a bit. We could start a transect.
Let's get a little bit away from here.
Okay.
And then I'm trying to see they did a transect on the last watch. We're on transect 11. We could do one.
Yeah, I know they had to stop and start a couple because of the fishing.
Yeah, that was a
Oh, that's
question
right.
that they had. So they were midway through transect 11, but had to pause it because of the fishing line, but never finished it.
Mhm.
So they wanted to know if you wanted to abandon transect 11 and start with 12 or restart 11. I would assume you'd want to probably abandon it since we're not on the same line.
Right.
Transit. But.
Yeah, this would be a new one. And I see in the log a transect 10, but there was a transect 11, you're saying?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not
Was it?
They didn't enter it into the transect tracking.
We're talking about our log. Don't want
Yeah.
to confuse you.
Trying
Okay.
to see here in the chat if there's.
I don't think they started in 11.
Yeah, it says they did start transect 11B at 0423, and then they paused it 3 minutes later, but never finished.
Yeah, I think.
Okay, so I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
But I'm gonna type that in because that would be an aborted transect. We want to keep track.
Yeah.
And match up with your data log.
Yes. So that was abandoned at 042639. So that's when we paused and didn't ever finish.
2639. And I'm sorry, when did it start? And forgive my typing noise.
So it started at 042340 and then ended at 042639, almost exactly 3 minutes later.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like some zoanthids are taking over that coral skeleton.
Yeah.
I'm putting it also in the data recovery report.
What was that?
It'll match what you're doing. I'm putting it also.
We're talking amongst ourselves.
Yeah, we have a
It's the only one like that
recovery
we've
and
seen,
data
isn't it?
report that we're
Yeah, I think they're
also
all pretty healthy,
tracking all this stuff.
Hey, Steve. Steve, you want to zoom in there? Yeah, good eye.
What is it that we're seeing?
I think those are zoanthids that have taken over the coral skeleton.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Good eye.
We're doing our bookkeeping here.
And I think that little Seabastomus up above with a sword spine, it has a long anal fin spine. Oh yeah, look at that.
There was a Christmas tree coral right here too.
Do you want me to hold up?
Yeah, sure. I didn't really get out in front anyway. So.
Great snap.
Oh, there's the Christmas tree coral.
You can zoom in there a bit, Steve.
Hold position.
With
there it is. With a squat lobster. Is that a squat lobster? Yes. Or who is that? I don't know who that is, but they're commonly found on Christmas tree coral. These little crabs. Oh, that's a nice concept.
And so their genus and species name really is, it's Dendrocristus.
Hmm.
So dendro is tree, and so I think
Yeah.
for once the common name matches the species and the species name.
Yeah. Oh, look at the crabs eating, or cleaning maybe his
Yeah, but it looks like he has chopsticks,
mandibles.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He or she.
They don't
you
look.
know.
They don't look that dexterous to me. They're so long,
No.
but they must obviously be.
I've never seen them bring their claw back like that. So.
Yeah.
Do they eat bits of the coral, or is he just using it as a stance? As a position?
I don't know if they're feeding on the coral. I just always assumed they were using it kind of as a platform.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be that the Christmas tree coral does attract prey items for the spot lobster that they can pick off.
Yeah, and
Those
it allows them
pincers
to
are
get
there for
higher
a
up.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing here.
Mind if I zoom a little
Oh,
tighter?
there's some.
It was like rubbing the arms.
Ooh. There's a little tiny rockfish down below.
Yeah, I
Another
see
sea bass
that.
Thomas. I don't know who that is, but it's one of the group, the subgenus
So what's
Sebastomus.
the big difference between Sebastes and Sebastomus?
Well,
With the
it's
rockfish.
the Sebastomus are these they're all Sebastes. Their genus is Sebastes, but they all have these 5 or so white spots on their back.
Okay.
And
Oops,
it's just
sorry.
a grouping, kind of a subgroup within the genus Sebastes.
Okay.
Ah, wrong button.
So the 5 white spots as juveniles and as adults puts them in the
Yeah,
Sebastomus group. Okay.
yeah. I think it's 5, but you see the
Yes, I see them.
obvious whites. Yeah. So rosies, rose thorns, starry, green spotted, green blotched, pink rose. I'm trying to rattle off. These are all some of the rockfishes, genus Sebastes, that have those white spots on the dorsum.
So maybe what we can do if we get out of here is we could get a transect in, or is that okay? Are we still concerned about fishing line?
I'm not worried about fishing line.
So maybe we could get one in then.
Okay.
103.
Okay.
In.
That was on me.
Nice
103 will
zoom.
go 0.3, and then we'll just have a sharp eye out in case we see anything and work out in front. I'll wait till you
If you're
get out there and I'll call it in.
What's that?
You want me to call it in now?
No, let me get set up.
I'll let you
Get in the slot, as you call it, the groove.
Roger.
And what transect are you going to want to call this?
We're going to call
sounds
it 11,
like it should be
correct?
12.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But
Oh, right. Sorry. 12.
Yeah, 12, because 11 was the previous one that was aborted, correct?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds
So this
great.
should be 12.
Just want to make sure we're consistent across our
Right.
data logs.
We are. Thank you for being consistent
Yeah.
and clear.
Of course, it's my job.
Somebody's got to do it. You want to swing Argus around to
Yep, coming around.
103 as well. We'll get lined up so we slip through all the fishing line.
Yeah, and that's actually how they were lined up the other night when they got caught in it. It was just that it was up high enough over 6-8, so it kind of is like, it helps prevent getting wrapped in the tether, which is the worst scenario, but
sometimes it's just unavoidable. It's a risk you take when you stick an ROV in the water.
Will Sellers was Alvin pilot, and he also came out. Jason pilot, he also came out and piloted Hercules. Anytime we got the vehicles back on deck, he had this big booming voice, and he would always
what?
He would always exclaim, well, we got away with it again.
I feel that way every time we get them back on deck.
Yeah,
it continues to amaze me that we can put millions of dollars worth of gear over side of a ship into a hostile environment, and it actually works.
I try not to think about that too much.
And it's not a one-time use thing. It keeps working.
It's not to be taken for granted, is it?
No. And you all seem so like cool cucumbers about it, right? I'll let you know that we all here in this science team, we're watching and we're all texting each other back and forth. Did you see what happened? Did you see what happened? And we're all freaking out.
Are you there?
Oh, with the line? Yeah, because I guess we came off
Yes.
for a bit there. But.
Yes, and we're all just alerting each other, get on there, find out what's going on. I hope it's okay. And you guys are off comms, as you just said. So.
Hello, hello.
Yes, hello? Di?
Well, I don't know
Did
if
we
anyone
lose
can
Di?
hear me, but I can't hear you. So I'm going to
We can hear you.
get out
yeah,
and get back in. I don't know what happened.
Ready?
Sure.
Okay, thanks for
whenever
saying
you
can hear me. I'm going to get out and get back in. I did can't hear you. Okay.
Step 200 meters, bearing 103, speed 0.3. Thank you.
So you'll let us
Can you
know
hear
when
me
the
now?
transect begins?
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I can hear you too.
We could hear
Sorry.
you before. I think your
yes.
audio must listen.
Yeah, thanks for letting me know on the chat.
Yeah, no problem.
So, Di, you've got a little bit louder in the past few minutes. Have you changed anything?
I'm holding the mic up in front of my mouth.
Oh, okay. You could. We had you in a good spot, so if you want to rest your arm, it's probably fine.
Okay.
All right, Taylor, and we can start.
All right, cool.
Start of transect.
Gracias.
Roger that.
So you'll do it on the transect in the green book, and I'll put it in the data recovery report. Okay, Di?
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. I'm in the transect log. I'm going to write down the time.
Great. So now you can see the Acanthogorgia because of the heading that we're on. They are in a completely different orientation, right? because we're looking at them from a different view.
How old are these? Do you judge these big fans to be?
I do not know. I do know that corals are typically slow growing. They're long lived. For the species that we have aged, right, like the Christmas corals, Christmas tree corals, sorry, weren't the ones that are like 3 meters tall, they're at least 300 years old, something like that, Di?
Something like that, yeah. And then I forget what other species of corals, if it's Paragorgia corals that have been aged.
Yeah, they're hundreds of years old, 2 to 3,
Hundreds
500 years old,
yeah.
depending on the size of that trunk.
Yeah, so I look at something like this and I think that's 50 years old, maybe?
Yeah,
maybe
I have
older.
no idea. Kind of a guess.
Are these
So
are these guys kind of like Doug firs versus a redwood or something?
I don't know. I don't know if this species has been aged. And or, well, what the mosaic we just did, some of those individual corals, if not all, many of those individual corals, they'll be able to measure, depending on when they come back, they'll be able to measure the amount of growth that's happened over time. And that'll give, I would imagine, could be useful for estimating a growth rate.
right.
It could help to, estimate age. But of course, growth rates can vary. I just don't know. Other than collecting a sample and doing.
There's not a lot of skeletons around either. I guess these ones don't leave a skeleton, like you were saying earlier, or it's different.
Yeah, I think they're not made of, their skeleton isn't calcium carbonate.
So
I'm going to look this up real quick. It's gorgonin. It's a complex protein that makes up the horny skeleton. And let me see if they form. I don't know.
We are headed toward waypoint. Which screen? B3, I think.
looks like his rock fell over.
Yeah, some of these are knocked over, aren't they? Or have fallen over. I think the nice base sponge, too. And I think this is another green spotted rockfish behind the rock here. He's kind of faded pale, but I can see green spots and that pretty distinct dorsal fin.
Yeah, very pretty. Thanks for explaining, because now that I see this, I'll hopefully remember for tomorrow or later today when we have the noon to 4
Well, I
shift.
think I've got this particular coral down, I must say. It'll be burned on my brain. If I see it again later and forget the name, oh boy.
For a second, I started clicking again a lot. I was like, wait, I don't have to do
Stop.
that anymore.
Oh, were you still clicking?
Like for a brief moment just now, like about like 10 seconds, I was clicking like once every 10 seconds or every second. I was like, wait, not taking a mosaic here.
Reset.
So, yeah.
And it pull those files out and do a. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You go ahead. Lots of basket stars hanging out on the sponges.
You've been transferring to those?
That's quite a stack, isn't it?
Yeah. They're related to brittle stars. They just have well, they're all related to sea stars, but they're more closely aligned with the brittle stars. But they just have a more intricate branching pattern, hence the name basket stars. Yeah. Most of the rockfishes are tucked away, asleep somewhere. Only the few sort of hanging out, who maybe not able to find a hole or a cave to hide in for the night.
Boy, these just go on and on, don't they? It's really neat.
It's pretty. I love their yellow color too. Very golden for sure.
We are the only ones on the chat, and it's been that way for a while.
Everyone else is sound asleep.
Yep.
So our next dive is, do you know where our next dive is going to be? It's going to be a little bit east of here, I believe. Trying to look it up.
Tom just logged in and said, no, some of us are here. Hey, Tom. Morning.
Yeah, when you say east of here, it's actually not very far east at all.
Yeah, not far at all.
Could have been the same dive even.
Is that an in-water transit east?
No, we're going to pull them.
No.
Rejigger the samples and all that.
Yeah, but it's just a little bit east of here. On Piggy Bank, I believe.
It's like pretty much like right here.
Right.
Oh, that's a jet pump transit.
Jet pump transit, yeah.
For us, that's the vessel transit swell. It's on DP.
Yeah.
Who's that just coming out?
I'm looking for the I'm looking for the dive
that-
plan for that. Oh, who just came out?
What-
I'm guessing the bank rockfish. I didn't get a good look at it though.
It had a very dark stripes. So
Yeah,
not a
brownish.
cheesefish or
Yeah.
okay,
Um,
bank rockfish.
well, I didn't get a good look at it, so we probably shouldn't say one way or the other. But
Right.
all these rockfish, the banks in particular, their patterns and coloration can change depending on what habitat they're in. So banks can vary from really pale to brick red to kind of a brownish color, and they can have bars or not. But what
And
they
Thomas,
usually always have is a
go ahead.
V on their operculum, a dark V, and then they have black fin membranes. The membranes in between their fin spines are blackish or dark. There's another green spotted off to the left there.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look for another bank and see. But I've seen some banks that look like I think this is a little bank that's nestled in this gold coral that the lasers just went past to the right. Tom says bank or baby speckled each have a night pattern that are similar. I haven't seen any speckled yet. They're really pretty. I haven't recognized any speckled yet, but if it's a baby, that could be. See, here comes another one. The lasers are just coming up on. Let's see if there's a V on the operculum. I can't tell.
I can't tell either. Like who could?
I can't see it. My monitor is not the crispest. That's a little bank off to the left there. I can see a V on the operculum. Now it's more of the brick red color right now. And we're going over a Christmas tree that looks kind of grayish to me. Like maybe it's not doing well.
Right to the left there.
Mm,
And there, what is
yeah,
the
and
one
there's another one to the left.
sitting in the
A sponge. I think
yes.
that's a little bank. Let's see if Tom chimes in.
Seeing a little bit more bigger sponges on this part of the transect.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was in the middle of looking for the other, the next dive plan. And I know it's referred to as Piggy in the
Mm-hmm.
watch spreadsheet. But I don't see a
I think they
dive
called it
plan.
something else in the dive plan, but on the Google Drive it is H1837.
Oh, 1837. That's a better way to look for it. Rock Bridge dive plan.
Rock Bridge. Yeah,
That's
they
what she's
changed
calling
it.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's look at the map. Yeah, so this is to the west of where we are now, right? Right, guys?
That's correct.
This, yeah. It's to the west of where we are.